Okay, so you guys have been working with Trig or starting Trig, and what's really important in Trig is being able to use a calculator properly, a scientific calculator properly, which has the Trig functions on it, the sine, cosine, tan functions on it. But one of the most important things by far is that right there, making sure your calculator is actually in degrees. There's also radians and gradients. Radians you can take in grade 12. Gradients you can take in university, especially in things like architecture and engineering and stuff like that. But you guys do everything in degrees, and you might have a button somewhere that says DRG on it, and if you press that, it should go between them. It might be a second function as well. If not, you might need to press mode or setup a couple times or whatever to find a place where it can actually change into degrees. Because if your calculator is not into degrees, you're not going to get any of the answers right. Nothing's going to work out because it's measuring them in a different unit. So you got to make sure it's actually in degrees. Okay, so that's all taken care of. We are going to look at how to actually punch things into calculators a little bit to actually do trig properly. And different calculators will do things in different ways, but we will see what we can do. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this because this is just a picture of a calculator. But here's an actual calculator I can punch things in. And I'm going to find the tan of this of my theta. So tan theta. So if I want to punch out my tan theta, that'd be opposite divided by adjacent. My opposite to theta is the 74, and then I got the 58. Okay, I'm writing it out like you should. So we punched all out. That's really simple. It's just 74 divided by 58. I press equals, and I get 1 point. I'm going to round off a little bit here. 1.28, we'll say. So this is 1.28. So there's my tan theta is 1.28. Okay. So now what if I actually wanted to find the angle? Of course, we use tan theta to find the ratio of the sides. But then, of course, sometimes we want to actually find the angle, and that's where the inverse functions kick in. So if I took the inverse tan of 1.28, that should tell me what my angle is, because that's what inverse functions are for. It will tell me what my angle theta actually is. Okay. Now, punching this in different calculators, you got to do it different ways. This one has sort of like the display type thing to show me what I'm actually typing in. The inverse functions are usually second functions, so I got to press my shift first, then I press this. Instead of putting tan -1, this calculator shows atan, which stands for arctan, which is the same thing. It doesn't make any difference. And then it puts a bracket, and then I'm going to put the 1.28. Now, you shouldn't have to typically put the final bracket into the calculator. You should be able to just press equals. This one doesn't like that for whatever reason, but a real calculator, it shouldn't be a problem. So this one wants to have that closed off bracket, which is fine. Oops, 0.28, close the bracket. So I typed that in, and I press equals, and I get 52. So that tells me that that angle was 52 degrees. So that's a 52-degree angle right there. Okay, so now I could do the same type of thing for my phi angle. I could do that as well. If I want to know what my phi angle is, it'd be the inverse tan. And I'm just going to do it all sort of one shot here. The ratio of 58 divided by 74, the opposite divided by the adjacent. Okay, so if I go to my calculator, there we go. I'm going to clear everything. All right, so to type this in, there's different calculators will do this different ways. Some calculators like it different ways. This one, often when they have a display like this, you're able to just type it in the exact way that it's sort of laid out. So there's my inverse tan of 58 over 74, and I press equals, and it gives me 38. Okay, now some calculators, they don't actually type things out for you like this. Some calculators, what they'll want you to do is do the division first, like this, 58 divided by 74, press equals, and then I would need to take the inverse tan of my answer, and there's the 38 again. So it's the exact same thing. So this is going to be 38 degrees. Okay, so some calculators type in whatever you write in, some calculators don't. You're going to have to figure out how to use your calculator. Most calculators nowadays have a little display that shows what you're actually typing in, which is really handy. but that's generally how things actually get punched in. Okay, so let's crack out another triangle here and show we could type things in to actually solve for a side instead, and then we'll do some more practice. Okay, so here's another triangle here. I got the 26 degrees, I got the 80 at the bottom. There's a missing side over there. I'm going to try and find out what that missing side is. So using my tan function, tan theta would be is opposite over adjacent. And if I sort of put my values here, so tan of 26 degrees is going to be equal to my opposite, which I don't know, divided by my adjacent, which is the 80. So I could put in the values now and figure it out that way, or I can just sort of rearrange things here. If I want to solve for this, I'd multiply by 80 on both sides. So I times this side by 80, cancels out, times this side by 80. And so 80 times the tan of 26 degrees should give me my opposite. So let's crack out my calculator here, all clear, and type this in. So in this one, I'll do 80 times the tan of 26. I'm going to press equals, and I get 39. Let's round it on, just say 39. So it looks like that should be 39. So this is equal to 39. So this side over here is 39. Okay, so that's how I could solve for that. All right, let's just move this over a little bit here so we can do something else. There we go, that's a little better. Okay, so let's switch this up a little bit. Suppose we wanted to do this a little bit differently. Okay, so suppose we had the other angle instead on the top left corner there, maybe we had that angle. I know that if this is 26 degrees down here, this would actually be 64 degrees up here, because they all have to add up to 180, and of course this is the right angle down there. And let's make up another value here, okay? So we'll just keep the 80 here, okay, that's fine. And we want, again, solve for this. So once again, to get the 39, but just practicing going from a different perspective. So using the blue stuff, tan theta would be the opposite, and this time my opposite is the 80, and I'd be looking for the adjacent. I already know the adjacent is going to be 39, but that's fine. We're just looking at how to actually rearrange things and solve for it. So if I am looking for the adjacent, there's different ways you can do this. You can cross-multiply approaches. It doesn't really matter. But what we can do is if 80 divided by A is tan theta, that means we can switch these two around. That 80 divided by tan theta will give you A. It's sort of like if you have 3 is equal to 6 divided by 2. Well, if 6 divided by 2 is equal to 3, that means 6 divided by 3 is equal to 2. So you can actually just, once you look at division list, you can actually just switch those two around. And that's the exact same thing we can do here, is we can just switch those two things around. So our tan theta and adjacent can switch. So adjacent would be 80 divided by tan theta. Okay, the way this is set up. So I can type in my 80, and I know that my theta over here, that's 64, so that's 64 degrees. All right, so let's just crack out Mr. Calculator here. So to punch this out, we'll all clear it. I'm going to do 80 divided by the tan of 64, close my bracket, and press equals, and there's my 39 degrees again. Okay, exactly what we're expecting. So once again, equal to 39 degrees. Okay, and again, everybody's calculators are a little bit different. That's fine. With some calculators, what you would have to do is you'd actually calculate this a little bit differently. With some calculators, you'd have to do the tan of 64, close the bracket, press equals, and then do 80 divided by that answer to get the 39. So you need to sort of figure out how your calculator works and how you like to type stuff in, but then hopefully you'll keep on getting consistent right answers, that type of stuff, and hopefully it's not going to be calculator logistics that are causing you problems. Okay, so hopefully this will help a little bit.